Good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is John Mark Shaw and this is Sunday Inspiration. And today's topic is welcoming a greater flow of wealth and abundance in our lives. And who here would love to have more money, more wealth, more abundance in their lives? Right? Woo! I don't think that there is anyone, perhaps maybe Jeff Bezos, but today what I'm talking about not only is an abundance of wealth in money, but also in all of the areas of our lives, in health, in loving relationships, in financial freedom, in time freedom, in all of the things that we would love in our lives to have an abundant wealth. But I am also including money. We're certainly not leaving money out. And so the first thing that I would love for you to hear from me today is that you were born to be rich. You deserve to be rich. You are a son or daughter of the Most High, of life, of God, of spirit, of the quantum field. And it is life's great pleasure to give you the kingdom. So many of us have complicated stories and thoughts and ideas about money, about wealth. And we're going to talk about some of those today. But I want you to know that life is seeking an ever freer, fuller, expanded expression of itself by means of itself, and you are part of this life. And so, life is seeking more wealth. In The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace Wattles spoke about that we deserve to be rich, that God can express, in his case, he was written in the old patriarchal language of he, God can express himself, herself, itself, more powerfully through you if you are wealthy. If you want to be self-actualized, he said, if you want to give your fullest gifts to the world, it's important that you have wealth and abundance, and yes, including financial wealth. You deserve to be rich by your birthright, It is your right. And I want you to think about some of the stories you might have heard in your life that might be contrary to that knowing. The other piece that I want to share with you today is that we live in an abundant and an infinite universe. And there is an old saying from the Upanishads, which is one of the original spiritual Hindu texts, that said, from abundance he scooped abundance and more abundance remained. There is an infinite source of supply in this world, in this universe. And any lack or limitation that we might be experiencing in our lives, or that we might be seeing in the world, it's not a supply problem. It's an awareness problem. It's a mental state problem. It's a mindset problem. It's also a greed problem, a distribution problem. But it's not a problem of supply. In the mid-20th century, there was a famous thinker, he was called a futurist, named Buckminster Fuller. And he came up with a principle called sufficiency. And he said that in the mid-20th century, humanity on this planet crossed a threshold where we finally had enough. Sorry, that must be a car outside. He finally had enough resources, food, shelter, and resources for every human being on the planet to have enough, to have sufficient resources. That because of the means of production, because of the Industrial Revolution, because of technology, around the mid-20th century, there was finally, for the first time in human history, enough for everyone to have enough in their lives. Food, clothing, shelter, all the things that are necessities of life. But what he said was that we are hardwired in our thinking, in our subconscious mind, with old beliefs that really stem from prehistoric times where there was survival of the fittest, where there was more struggle for resources. And so what he said was it would take probably at least 100 years for our awareness, for our culture, for our political institutions, for our economic institutions, for our cultural institutions to catch up with the reality that there is a sufficiency of resources, that the old paradigm that there is really no longer true, that there needs to be a struggle. There is plenty for everyone. So I want you to hear that. So yes, are there people who are struggling and don't have enough food and don't have shelter and don't have education? Yes, but it's not that there is not enough. It's that there is a unbalance, there is greed, there are differentials in the allocation of those resources, but there is plenty. And so I want to ask you today, as we start to develop an ability to welcome a greater and fuller, more expanded expression of money and all kinds of abundance into our lives, what is your money story? What is your money mindset? Because we all have a money story and a money mindset. And actually the way it works, just like our computers, is that we are programmed to have certain results. Our programming creates a pattern of results in our lives. Our thoughts create feelings, our feelings create actions, and our actions create results. It's called the results formula. And we all have a paradigm or a pattern of thinking that creates the results, and including our money mindset. Our money mindset is magnetic. Our money mindset has created a paradigm or a thermostatic setting on our results. And so actually, your financial results, the amount of money that you have, and all abundance, but we can focus on money today, the amount of money you have is literally a perfect reflection of your money mindset. And it has to do with your beliefs and thoughts and stories about money, the nature of money, and also what you feel you deserve. And so we're going to delve a little bit deeper today, and I want to ask you, what are some of your money stories? Because in order to change our financial results, we actually have to reprogram our money mindset. And so in order to reprogram, it starts by becoming aware of what our stories are about money and about how much money we deserve. So are you a person perhaps who believes that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, but I'm not a person who's born to be rich because my parents weren't rich and their parents weren't rich? Are you a person who believes that you can have money and love? That was one of my mentor's beliefs, that she thought because she was raised in a family that always said that we don't have money, but we have lots of love, that started to program a belief inside of her that you can have money and love. And so that you would have to trade in being a good wife or mother or husband in order to really be successful and wealthy. And that's a money paradigm that actually limits people. And that actually limited my mentor, Mary Morrissey, until she discovered it and was able to repattern it and then broke through her results. You might have a belief that money's not spiritual, right? That you want to be a spiritual person, you want to be a pious person, you want to be, a person who cares about people, and that rich people are mean or nasty, or rich people are not the kind of people that you feel are good, moral people, that somehow they had to cheat their way to the top to get money, right? And you might have some exemplars or some avatars of that you look at and you say, well, that person's not a very good person and they're rich, therefore good people are not rich. Therefore, if I want to be a good person, I can't be rich, right? That might be something that's operating in you. And again, what I would ask for all of you to do is look a little deeper, because we're not usually aware of the subconscious programming around money. But the founding of our country was founded by Puritans, right, who had certain religious beliefs. And some of those beliefs were puritanical beliefs around that money, that opulence, that great wealth is not pious, is not spiritual. And we are grounded, some of us, in that belief. And so sometimes that will mean that creates a false choice in us, and if it's more important for us to be good people, then somehow we leave money out. And it's not a conscious thought that we're having. We're not thinking to ourselves, well, I want to stop getting money because it's not spiritual, but it's a program that operates in us under the surface. When you open up your computer, you have hundreds of programs that are running all the time. You're not even aware of them, but they're creating your access to the internet and to your files and to all the different kinds of software that you have. So we all have mental software around our money mindset and our money programming. So I want to give you an example of a great story that my teacher, Mary Morrissey, tells about going to see a very famous teacher. His name was Raymond Charles Barker. He was a person who wrote The Power of Decision he was such a famous, powerful teacher that he literally filled Avery Fisher Hall in Lincoln Center every single Sunday with thousands of people. So he had a tremendous reputation as a spiritual teacher. And so Mary didn't have a lot of money at the time. She was studying to be a minister. She traveled all the way to New York City to go see this man speak. And the man, thousands of people in the audience. The man gets out on stage. He's in his 80s, so he's an older gentleman. He's very, very well dressed. And he walks out on stage without saying a word, and he takes out an enormous wad of $100 bills. And what he does is he looks at the $100 bills, he fans them out, he looks at the audience, and then he proceeds to kiss the money. I love money. I just love money. And then he waits and he watches the audience, right?
Like horrified.
And then after a few beats, a few seconds, he says, I bet some of you might be kind of appalled about what you just saw. I bet some of you might think, that's immoral, that's disgusting. How could he get out on stage and start kissing money? That's dirty, right? He said, I bet you some of you are even thinking, this guy's not even spiritual. And so Mary, who's a young minister sitting in the audience, sits straight up and says, oh my God, he's reading my mind. Because she was thinking, this guy's not even spiritual. I wasted my money. I wish I could just leave right now. I want to get out of here. I don't like this man, right? And then he said, so what would be the difference? And he put away the money and he put it in his pocket. And he said, what would be the difference if I brought out onto stage a little 4-year-old boy? And I picked up the little 4-year-old boy and I put him in front of me. And I looked at everyone and I said, this is my grandson. I just love my grandson. And then put him back down. What would you all think, he said? Would you think that there was something wrong with me loving and kissing my grandson? No, right? Nobody would have any problem with that. So why do you think it's okay to love your grandson, but it's not okay to love the symbol of your freedom? Money is the symbol of our freedom. Our feelings about money might be complicated, but are your feelings about freedom complicated? Don't we all want more freedom? And then he said, and how do you think money feels about the way you feel about money? Do you think that money wants to come where it's not loved and appreciated? And Mary's head exploded, right? Metaphorically, of course, right? She had never even conceived of money being a symbol of her freedom. She had never considered that money might, since it's an energetic being like we are, might not want to come where it's not loved and appreciated. That our complicated feelings about money and what's wrong with money and why we shouldn't have money might be literally repelling money from coming into our lives. So I want to ask you, what might be some of your money mindset issues? I'll tell you, for me, for a long time, I had a money mindset that I could make money. I did pretty well in business, doing something I didn't love in the restaurant business, and I've talked to you about that. And I could do pretty well, and that made sense to make money doing that. But that money wasn't spiritual. So in my longing to serve people in a deeper way into their greatness, and to serve them spiritually like I'm doing with you today, I actually believed and had fear that there was no way to make money doing that. That it was impossible to make money serving people spiritually because money wasn't spiritual. I also had a belief that stemmed from my father. So my father was a man who was very, very successful in business, using his creative genius for business in advertising. But he was not able to make money doing what he longed to do, what he loved, which was in the theater and creating and writing plays and musicals, right? So I created a subconscious belief based on that evidence that you could make money doing something in business, but not something that you loved, not something that was your heart's desire. So And then I also saw that he didn't necessarily love as much what he was doing, and that it was hard, and there was struggle, and there was stress. So making a lot of money is very stressful. It's a lot of struggle. You can make money, because he did well, but it's going to be stressful. You can't do what you love, and you certainly can't do something spiritually and make a lot of money. And so that fear stopped me from leaving my safe and secure career in the restaurant business for many, many years. And then when I finally repatterned that fear to a certain extent to enable me to launch my coaching business, right, and to do what I'm doing now, helping people and businesses grow and serving people spiritually, for the first time since having a family to support, I didn't have a steady paycheck. And so the next piece of my money mindset that reared itself up, because as you create change, all the paradigms that are limiting you are going to rise up to be seen, and hopefully you can repattern them, was I started to have a kind of an obsession with worrying about money. Because I was, creating a business, getting clients, and so when I had a steady paycheck and I had built a pretty nice sized business, I wasn't really spending time thinking about worrying about money and where my next income was coming from. And one of the principles that I want you to hear from me today that's very important is that the worrying about money, in fact, Wallace Waddell says every moment, every hour you spend in worry, doubt, and fear about money, every moment, every hour you spend in disbelief will send the tide away from you of money and more abundance. So what I realized was, as I was starting a new business and taking a risk, and of course it's very normal to be worried and fearful when you're taking a risk, what I finally came to realize is that there is a principle that what you pay attention to is what you magnetize and what grows in your life. And so if you spend your time worrying about not having enough money, about how much money isn't in your bank account, about where your next client is going to come from, and thinking perhaps it won't come, you actually generate a magnetic field that organizes the molecular structure of time and space to create more things to worry about. And so what I finally realized, just to put it in very blunt terms, that every moment I was spending, every second I was spending worrying about money was literally like burning money. It was like throwing money down the toilet. I want to say that again. Every second you are spending worrying about money, you might as well be burning it. So what do? There are some practices that we can do, but first, to really, really hear that, I would love for all of you listening today to really hear that, because it's common sense or common hour thinking, which was the term that Emerson and Thoreau used for the way most people think about common sense, that you should think a lot about your problems. And if you think a lot about your problems will go away. And what I'm telling you today is if you think a lot about your problems will never go away. That you want to take your mind off of your problem, and they were transcendentalists. And so what they said was, let's transcend our thinking, and let's not think about our circumstances. Let's know that what is within us is greater than any circumstance, situation, or condition, that we are greater than our problems, and let's keep our mind off of our problems and onto our vision of a life of great wealth and success. So the first step I'll say to you today is, let's create a crystal clear vision about what wealth and success and abundance looks like for you. Spend some time, write it down. Where are you living? We're living in a 3-story yellow Victorian home on the water with a front and backyard and a wraparound porch and a deck on the second floor. Right? We know where we'll be living. Right now we're living in a gorgeous place, but that's our next level up of the abundance. Spend time thinking about that. Spend time thinking about what it's going to feel like when you are generating the kind of wealth that you would love. What you're going to do with it, who you're going to serve, the philanthropic activities, the charities you're going to give to. Get a crystal clear vision of what it is that you would love and spend your time thinking about that. So that's one step. And there are some other steps I'm going to share with you today. The next step is gratitude. Gratitude is the frequency that is harmonious with abundance. I want to say that again. Gratitude is the frequency that is harmonious with abundance. There is a scriptural quote that's very important that says that to those that have, and again, it's actually written in the old patriarchal language in Scripture, to him that hath, but that's not the language that I want to talk about it today, because I don't want to get distracted by that old-fashioned language. So it's to those that have, more shall be given. And to those that have not, even which they have, that which they have will be taken away. To those that have, more shall be given. And to those that have not, even that which they have will be taken away. So that sounds, if you just listen to that on the surface, that sounds like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. But there is a deeper meaning to that, as there is to all of these scriptural quotes that are really teachings about the laws of the universe. And what that is really saying is, to those that vibrate at the frequency of havingness, to those that embody havingness, more shall be given. And to those that embody or vibrate at the frequency of lack, even what they have will be taken away. So to those that embody being wealthy and successful and rich, more will be given to them. So how do we embody that? Short of having it in our bank account, how can we transcend our circumstances and be a person who is wealthy and rich now and vibrate at that frequency so that we attract the more good that we want? It starts with gratitude. It starts with being grateful in this moment. And there are 3 levels of gratitude I want to talk to you today about. The first level is grateful when. And that's the belief that I will be grateful when I get the $1 million check. I'll be grateful when I meet the man of my dreams. I'll be grateful when I get a new job. That's common sense. That's common hour thinking. And that's lack consciousness. Because that's saying that I'm not going to be grateful. I'm not going to be a person who has until the thing comes to me. Right? And that's common hour thinking. That's the way 99.9% of the people in this world think. I'll be grateful when. What I want to introduce you to today, and I'm sure many of you already know this, is to be grateful for, which is the next highest level. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the fact that I woke up this morning and that I had another day of life. I'm grateful for my healthy, happy daughter and my great marriage and our beautiful home and the water we live next to and our abundant life and the fact that I'm going to go see my mom later today. I'm grateful for those things. I have many things, and you all have many things to be grateful for. I'm sure you also have many things that you're concerned about, but let's put our minds on what we're grateful for, because that's an energetic supplement. That's a vitamin that we take, because we raise our vibration and we send a broadcast when we're grateful to attract more good. If you want to be more wealthy and rich and successful, be more grateful. And the highest level of gratitude is beyond grateful for. It's actually grateful in. So there was a great quote by Paul the Apostle, he wrote this quote when he was literally in a dungeon. He was being, jailed for speaking the word of the teachings of Jesus Christ. And so he was in the kind of prison that would make our current prisons look like Club Med. And he said, I have learned this one thing, that in whatever experience or situation I am in, therein to be grateful. Which means that I can be grateful when there's challenge. I can be grateful when I just got a big bill. I can be grateful when the doctor says something is wrong with me or somebody in my family. I can still be a grateful person. I can still connect to the energy of abundance and gratitude, even if my circumstances are not what I would love. I can be grateful in. Viktor Frankl, who is a famous practitioner of this, he had everything taken from him. He became later a very famous psychologist, wrote Man and His Symbols, and was a great teacher of mindset, of these principles. And so what happened for him is that his entire family, he was in a Nazi concentration camp, and he lost his family, he lost his wife. They took his manuscript, and then at the end, when they took the last thing in his life that connected him to his old life, which is this little thin ring that he was wearing, a wedding band. They took it from him. Something happened in him, something awoken in him, where he realized that there is one last and essential human freedom. The freedom to not let our circumstances determine our thinking. The freedom to be grateful in our circumstances, to be grateful in the fact that we are breathing, to be grateful for another day of life. And that nobody can, he did not want to allow the Nazis to make him live in hatred for the rest of his life, because that would be giving them the ultimate power. The ultimate power lied in him to stay positive, to create a new life, to be grateful for the life that he had, and to create an incredible work where he helped thousands of people after that. But many people, lesser people, I wonder if you could have overcome a situation like that and maintained a grateful mindset. Very powerful. And so the other polar side of being a person who has, to whom more shall be given, is to be generous. Because how would you be if you had a lot? What are the two basic feelings that you would have? The two basic feelings of abundance. When you have a lot, you get a big check, somebody gives you a big gift. What are the two things that you feel? Gratitude and generosity. So if I want to be a person now who is vibrating at the frequency of having this to attract more of what I want, more money, more love, more success, more abundance in all its forms, then I want to be grateful, and then I want to be generous, to be a better giver, to be a person of increase, is what Wallace Wattles talks about. That in every circumstance, in every meeting, in every interaction, in every business conversation, that I'm seeking to serve people, to be a giver. We live in a perfect system, this quantum field, and you've heard about some of the universal laws like the law of attraction. The law of receiving, if I want to receive, I activate that by giving. That's the way it works. It's a perfect system. So if I want to receive more, ultimately I need to be giving more, right? I need to be serving more. And there are many ways to give. I can tithe to where I'm spiritually fed. I can give to charity. I can give support. I can give guidance. I can give my time. I can give my inspiration to people who, when they're down. I can feed people in all different kinds of ways. There's actually, in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill has an extra mile formula. He says that there's a law of compensation, which there is, and if we want to increase our compensation, if we want to make more money or receive more abundance, then we need to do three things. We need to increase the quality of the service we're giving, right? So we want to give more of ourselves, more heart, and we want to make it a better quality. I want to do a better job giving these talks. I want to do a better job in the quality of my coaching. You might have a product or service, that you want to be doing a better job with. So if I want to increase my compensation, the first is to increase the quality of my service. The second piece is to increase the quantity of my service, right? Give to more people. Give more. Up-level my giving in any possible way. So there's a qualitative component, and then there's a quality component. And finally, he talks about mental attitude. Because we can be giving and giving and giving, but if we have a worry, doubt, and fear, or a negative mental attitude about money and about our worthiness of money, whether we're worthy to be rich, whether it's okay to be rich, we can block the flow of abundance, even if we're doing all of these other things. And lastly, what I want to talk to you about is taking action. So there's an interesting principle that, again, Wallace Wattles speaks about in this brilliant book, The Science of Getting Rich. And it's interesting, I actually, when I heard the name of that book, there was a part of me, by the way, that was a little repulsed by that. Because, I'm studying transformational teaching, how to make people live better lives. And then there's a book called The Science of Getting Rich. And I had a little bit in me that was like, oh, this must be kind of a shallow book. My money mindset, right? That there was something wrong with knowing the science of getting rich. And of course, Wallace Wattles doesn't only mean money, but he's certainly not leaving money out, right? And so I had some beliefs about money being different from other kinds of abundance, and that it wasn't okay to read a book called The Science of Getting Rich. So what are your money stories? I want you to continue to think about that today and this week. But in one principle he talks about is that by thought, we draw the things that we want to us. We've all heard from the law of attraction, and I've spoken about it here before, that our thoughts that are infused with our feelings energize and create a magnetic field which organizes the molecular structure of time and space and attracts the things that we want. But what he said was, many people stop short at this point because they're thinking and they're feeling about the things that they want, but he said, by action we receive those things. By thought, we're drawing the money, the success, the abundance, the clients, the love of our lives to us by our thinking and our feeling and our visioning work. That is a very important piece of everything that I teach, our visioning work. But we do not receive it without taking action. So many of us spend a lot of time thinking and imagining and infusing our visions with feeling, but we don't take the steps we have to take. Right? We may be thinking that we want to go meet somebody, but we're not getting out and going to that social or that party. We may be wanting to attract more clients, but we're not getting out and doing the business networking or making the phone calls. We may be, wanting to lose weight, visualizing ourselves, wearing the clothes that we would love, but we're not taking the steps to go to the grocery store and buy healthier food. So by thought, the thing that we want is attracted to us, but by action, we receive it. Very important principle. And so what I want to share with you as we start to close today is that we all have a money mindset. We all have stories and beliefs about money. And that if you want to up-level the amount of money, success, abundance that you have in your life, the place to start is to ask yourself, what is my money story and my money mindset? What are some beliefs that I might hold, however subconsciously, that might be operating in me? Because your financial results and your results in all kinds of different aspects of abundance are a perfect reflection of your mindset. And so if you want to raise the thermostatic setting, if it's 72 degrees, I think, in here on that thermostat, and you want to raise the temperature to 80 degrees, you actually have to shift your programming, your money mindset. And that starts with becoming aware of your beliefs and your stories about money, and also you're deserving of money, whether you're worthy of great success, whether there might be some things that were said to you that maybe your brother or sister or that other person is meant to be successful, but not you. Maybe you're not as smart, maybe you're not as well educated, maybe you didn't come from a certain kind of family. And so you have some beliefs about yourself and about whether you believe that you are worthy of great success and abundance and wealth, whether you're good enough. So to ask yourself, what are some of those stories? And to be willing to tell the opposite story. Right, so one of the important principles, Mary does a lot of work with Bob Proctor, who is a great teacher who is also in The Secret. And he says that money is only good for two things. Money is good for us to be comfortable enough, to be creative enough, to share our gifts. Right? So, as I said, life or God or the universe wants you to make manifest as much life, as much success as you possibly can. And so money is just a symbol of our freedom to express ourselves, our freedom to transact in three-dimensional time and space. And so to shift our thinking about money, that money is something that we are meant to have. We are meant to be successful. We are meant to be rich. And to just shift our thinking when we start having a thought that might be other than that, or that we might have a thought that perhaps we're not worthy of that. And then to spend more and more time being a person who has, to whom more shall be given, which is to lean into being grateful. Not grateful when something good happens in our lives, but grateful for all of the blessings that we all have, and also grateful in no matter what experience that we have. To up-level our generosity, to be willing to go the extra mile for our wives and husbands, for our children, for our friends and colleagues, for our clients. How can we give a higher quality of service? How can we serve more? And how can we maintain a positive mental attitude while we're doing that? And what steps can I take when I've thought and visioned the more good that I want? What is the action? Because I know that my thoughts attract the good that I want, but ultimately it's my action that will allow me to receive it. And I want to give you an affirmation that was created by Bob Proctor in closing, which has helped me. And it starts with an awareness that there is really one infinite source, and that there are many channels. One of the things that held me back from leaving my company was that I got confused and I thought that my company was my source of financial, of income. But when I finally realized that there's one source, there's one infinite source, many channels, I knew that I could get my good from other places. So the affirmation is this: money, I'm so happy and grateful now that money flows to me in increasing quantities through multiple channels on a continuous basis. Thank you so much for coming. My name is John Mark Shaw, and happy Sunday. Thank you so much.